how did I go from being hospitalized 4 times for manic psychosis in 2016 to 2018, 60 days in the psych ward, couldn't take care of my affairs, couldn't work, couldn't do anything, to now where I'm healthy, I'm living on my own, I don't have mania, I don't have psychosis, my mood is stable, I can work, everything is good. I want to share 8 tips that I've used with the ketogenic diet that have made a huge difference for me. And I went on the keto diet in 2021. It's actually around the 4-year anniversary of the day I went on the keto diet. I went on the keto diet January 4th of 2021. It's January 5th of 2025 now. So it's been 4 years of a strict keto diet. I've divided this video into 2 sections. First are some of the tactical tips with the diet itself. And then the next 4 are some of the more psychological elements, mindsets, psychologies, things that have helped me as well. Those are the last 4 tips. So number 1, different keto diets work for different people. The keto diet is a macronutrient makeup. There are 3 macronutrients we can take in as food: protein, carbs, and fat. The keto diet is a high fat, moderate protein, low carb diet. It's different from things like vegan diet, vegetarian diet, carnivore diet, where a specific food or type of food is prescribed. The keto diet is just a macronutrient makeup of food. So people can do a keto diet, carnivore. People can do a vegan keto diet. People can do a vegetarian keto diet. All of those work. It's just a question of keeping the carbs very, very low, keeping the protein moderate, and bumping the fat intake very, very high. People need different ketone levels. I've talked to people who need to keep their ketone levels at 2.5 or 3 millimoles per liter constantly to achieve mood stability. For me, I can have them drop down to 0.4 or 0.5 and then rise up to 1, 1.5, or 2 throughout the course of the day and just keep that rhythm. I don't need to keep my ketone levels high at 2.5 or 3 millimoles all the time. Now, for the first 9 months of the diet, I did track. I was very careful about tracking my ketone levels and keeping them at 2.5 or 3 millimoles. And I think that was very important for the first 9 months or a year to track them twice a day and to keep them stable. Now I find I don't need to keep them high all the time, but some people do. So it's up to us to experiment and figure out what works and figure out which ketone levels are appropriate for us. At this point in early 2025, we just don't know enough about the diet, about these therapies to prescribe a one-size-fits-all keto diet to everyone. Number 2, eating enough fat. I found that for optimal ketone levels, I need to eat a lot of fat. I need to bump the fat up. I used to think that just fasting and keeping the carbs very, very low would be enough to bump my ketone levels high. I've done 48-day fasts, and what I found is actually my ketone levels didn't get as high as when I just pound the fat. So heavy cream, pork lard, butter, all of that is good. And I just try to eat a lot of fat over the course of the day, and it really helps keep my ketone levels high. Number 3, mania and other mood disturbances upon starting keto. People can have tricky mood problems when they start a ketogenic diet. A lot of the times when people first dive into the diet after eating a standard American diet, lots of carbs their whole lives, people can have weird symptoms. People can have mania. People can have depression. When I first went on the diet in 2021, we were very careful to keep olanzapine around and make sure that I had those extra meds and that I was watching very carefully to make sure if anything came up, and I think some hypomania did come up, that we could just take care of that. And people can have that when they start a ketogenic diet, when they first go on the diet. Eventually, after a few weeks, everything stabilized, my mood was good, and after that I was fine. But that's something to keep note of, is when first starting the diet, people can have weird mood disturbances, and it's worth watching that. That dovetails into my 4th point, which is that after being out of ketosis for a while or having low ketones for a couple of weeks, when I come back into the ketogenic diet, hardcore, I can have slight blips. This has happened to me 5 or 6 times over the last few years where my ketones have been low for a couple weeks or a few weeks, not because I was eating lots of carbs, but just I wasn't tracking as carefully. And then when I start going hardcore on the diet, tracking ketones, getting them up to 2, 2.5, 3 millimoles per liter, I have had blips, nothing serious, only a day or two, a small, tiny bit of hypomania, sometimes even hardly noticeable, but I've noticed it and I've been able to look and say, wow, I went and my ketones got high all of a sudden after being out of ketosis or having low ketones for a couple weeks, and I had a tiny blip, and I did just take a little extra olanzapine, no severe consequences, everything was fine, but it is something to watch out for. Being having low ketones for a few weeks and then coming back hardcore into ketosis, and there can be some mood stuff happen there. Okay, now I'm going to go into section 2, which is lifestyle tips. FOMO. FOMO is a big one. I had a lot of FOMO my first 2 years of doing a ketogenic diet. I had a lot of fear of missing out, and it was challenging watching my friends eat pizza, drink beer, eat ice cream, all of these foods, and especially the cultural festivities around food that I couldn't participate in. That was a huge one for me. It's very hard to watch a group of 12, 15, 20 people participating in a cultural festivity around some food and enjoying the food and talking about the food and discussing it with each other and not being able to participate in that. That's challenging. Hold the line, be strong. Having a stable mood, eating for performance is cooler than eating for pleasure or hedonism or taste or whatever it happens to be, or even culture, I would say. Number 2, doubters. A lot of people don't believe me. A lot of people will question this and say like, wow, I even had a good friend recently who asked me, Matt, were there any other variables you changed around the time that you started the ketogenic diet that could have contributed to this mood stability? He wasn't able to accept or acknowledge that it's possible that changing a diet had such a radical impact on my mental health. It wasn't in his vocabulary. He hadn't been trained to think that way. And I think this is because we are raised in the West not to think of food as medicine. We think of prescriptions and pharma and drugs as what's going to treat us. And that philosophy change will come gradually. I try to have a lot of compassion for people. I understand that people just don't think this way. It's annoying. I feel like sometimes the world is gaslighting me constantly into trying to believe something that I know not to be true, because I know that this diet had a radical impact on my mood, but that's challenging. And so for people who are dealing with people who are doing keto, dealing with doubters, family, friends, doctors not believing you, not acknowledging the difference this is making, I get it. And it's up to us to hold the line. I think this is going to get better in the next 5 or 10 years when people start to realize, wow, this is real. Giving unsolicited advice, number 3, about people struggling with mental health. I try not to give unsolicited advice unless there's a very good reason. Unless this is someone about whom I care deeply or someone going through something very difficult, I really, really want to help them. I think it's appropriate to unload the unsolicited metabolic therapies bomb advice. I try not to do this. I've just found that for my own sanity, it's more useful to channel this into a mechanism like the podcast, Bipolar Cast, or you guys here on the YouTube channel. Try to reach a lot of people that way than to go and have a savior complex for individuals that I interact with in my day-to-day life. That's not to say that I won't do this occasionally. Talk to someone, give them unsolicited advice. Hey, this is something that has really worked for me in certain circumstances. I always try to frame this as, hey, this is what's worked for me. I wanted to tell you about something that I tried that had a radical impact on my mental health rather than frame it as advice. But I still rarely do that, and I try not to do it, and I only do it once in a while. And the final thing I'll mention, number 4, is I do many things besides keto. There are so many metabolic therapies that have contributed to the recovery. Exercise, cardio, walking, getting sunlight in the morning, circadian rhythm management, taking care of the sleep, blue light blockers in the evening, as well as just being around friends, having a purpose, being connected spiritually to God, working regularly. All of these things are so, so important, as well as abstinence from nicotine, abstinence from drugs and alcohol. All of that is critical. I don't want to give the impression that keto is some sort of panacea, cure-all. Although what I will say is without the ketogenic diet, I don't think I would have achieved the recovery that I have, because I was trying all of those other things and I was doing them and it wasn't working for me. I still wasn't getting the recovery that I wanted. And it wasn't until I started the ketogenic diet in 2021 that I saw a radical difference and radical healing for my mood and my bipolar disorder. And the last 4 years have just been amazing. There have been challenges, tapering off meds, medication withdrawal. Things have not always been easy. Things are still difficult for me. But, now I live a life where I take care of myself. I can handle my affairs. I can do all this, do the podcast, talk to you all, and things are overall really, really good. So I hope these tips were helpful. Please share your experience in the comments. Keto 2025, what are you doing? What are your thoughts? How is this going for you? What are your plans for 2025? Has this had an impact on your mental health at all? I'm eager to learn as much as I can about this, and I'm wishing all of you the best year. I hope things go amazingly for you. Please let me know your thoughts. and let me know what you want me to do in future videos. I will see you all soon. Peace.